Alrighty, hey, what is up? Happy New Week, man, and how you guys doing? I am excited to jump into another of my one takeaway, and this is November 27th. And it's crazy because today, my one takeaway isn't influenced by something I read, or it is actually influenced by something I've been reading, but it's not necessarily immediately influenced by that. It's a conversation I had with the wife. And so let's get into it. As usual, I wrote a little bit of something that I'm going to read through and then kind of unpack using my words and how I'm like feeling and thinking through this. So thank you. I just realized I when I watched myself back, I think that I talk a little bit slower. So I mean, I guess you can watch this in 1.5, 1.75. Yeah, it sounds pretty good. How to plan my week, and my wife needs answers. Whew. Hey. So this morning started with me helping up the wife to create some awesome marmalade for lunch, and then I was off to the office. Gone are the days where I used to enjoy working from home. Yeah, but before I left, we had a candid moment where she asked me a bunch of questions that I could not answer, and I felt as though they were loaded, and I just danced around the answers. So this is the morning, man. This is the amazing goat leg that she did the thing on it, man. I'm so excited to get back to the house and have some of it. So yeah, a little background. We plan a lot of things that we should do together that we surely it's I don't execute for one reason or another. Small things, but they do compound. Things like fixing the new bathroom mirror, creating some shelves in the corridor, fixing or repainting somewhere in the house, printing more family portraits, at least some new ones that are not a few years old, follow up on personal documents from the government, etc. So when she brought up something that I'm supposed to do for her today, I danced around it. It was like I was avoiding the task because I felt I would get back in the house without having done this one particular task. I danced around the task because low key I was wondering, why is she giving me more things to do? It was then that she asked the question, "What are you going to do today?" "A bunch of work," I replied. "What bunch of work? Can you be specific?" "Ah," I stammer, "just a bunch of unfinished work and other work that I get to do. You know what I do. You know what I do." So it's like, "You know what I do, baby girl." I said, hoping that would save me from her questions. She proceeded to say, "Why can't you just list your to-do list one after the other? The unfinished work you speak of, I am your accountability partner." Well, that's not how I feel. I try to diffuse. I feel like you're holding a gun to my face. No, I'm not. Besides, you could just have answered my question so that I know how to support you. You do not communicate well about the things you do. I paused, sensing she has a point, and I have gone weeks without updating her on what I am up to. I just keep telling her I am stressed out with all the unfinished work. Maybe we should be creating a session where we get to talk about our plans, our thoughts, and how our day went. She agreed. Actually, I had shown her this thing on this reel on Instagram where this couple say like they have a weekly thing where they sit down and they have and so like she really agreed because she had seen the reel that maybe we should find a way of talking about our plans, kind of like our weekly plans. She proceeded to tell me how I move is akin to her also just leaving the house in the morning, finding new work during the day, accepting the offer, and updating me in the evening that, "Hey, babe, got a new job. I start tomorrow." And I'm supposed to say, "Cool." I told her that's not how it is, but she insisted, and I accepted, mostly because she had expressed to me how she felt about this issue: silence about tasks. Now, this conversation triggered me and absolutely changed my morning, and especially how I was going to run this day. We need to create a session where I'm able to create visibility into the things that I'm doing, the kind of deals that I'm thinking of and making, and where I am currently, even in my head. I wondered a lot why I have never done or made the effort to make this work. So I decided that is where we'll start, especially since I cannot shake off the thought that is in my head. Knowledge work, intangible work. And here's a graphic I just made on Canva of a guy, supposedly me, thinking about a bunch of stuff. and then same guy, supposedly me, making a bunch of stuff, and I'm calling it knowledge work and creative work. So a bulk of what I do for work is what you might call knowledge work. It's intangible, and I get to create mostly digital assets on a computer screen that are supposed to serve some business function: marketing, sales, and communication. These are some of the assets that I create in my work. We have videos, graphics, and design elements. There's photographs, presentations, workshops, there's blog posts and write-ups, there's customer conversations, like actual convos, there's plans and admin documentations, etc. Now, because of this, one of the ways to show off your work is to demonstrate that the finished product of your work is to demonstrate this like kind of finished product. So that's printed work, graphics, videos, presentations, etc. Now, it's even more hidden if the kind of work that you do will only be shared on a Google Drive or cloud storage, or shared on social media, and it's eaten away by the stillness of time. Right? Like you create a piece of graphic and it's eaten away by time. It's now 2 weeks old, 3 weeks old, 1 month old, 3 months old, 1 year old. It gets eaten by the stillness of time. It's really creepy how like the kind of content isn't fresh. Anyway, so therefore, here are a couple of questions. So even while I'm doing this, these are some of the big questions that often bombard me when I'm thinking about work and my own work. So how can you really show the effort of work that you put in? How do you demonstrate done? Is it through publishing? Is it through sending to review? Is like, how do you define done? What is done, especially in a knowledge work kind of context? Is there done, or we just like abandon work? Right? What of all the thoughts before, during, and after the project? Because every time you're working on a project, there are thoughts that you have initially when you don't have the information, you don't have the knowledge, and then during and then after the project, things that you're thinking, next time I do this, this is some of the things I could do, this is some of the assets I could use. What of all the accumulated learnings and experience from work? Right? Because every time you put in work, especially knowledge-based work, so I'm talking about all these kind of things, you are getting experience, and you are getting a few learnings. You're learning how to use tools, you're learning where to get assets, you're learning just minor techniques on how to do this work better. So what of all these accumulated learnings and experience, where does it go, right? And is there a way to demonstrate this value, right? So like, could it be this? Could it be an Instagram shot? And then I wonder. You know that meme? There's a new meme that all Kenyan guys say, I wonder. So this is how another graphic I meant. So this is knowledge work, and then this is physical labor. So knowledge work is like, bro, this is intangible. It cannot easily be seen. It might be measured using specialized tools, right? So any type of those kind of intangible things that I've talked about, like you can't see it physically. You can't see a piece of presentation unless you have a PowerPoint or a Google slide. You can't see a sheet unless you have a Google sheet or an Excel. You can't see a document unless you printed it out, or you have like a Word app or a Photoshop document, or all these Illustrator files. And even now these things are making it on this app called Canva. And if you don't have a Canva and haven't exported it, how do you even know that I've done work, bro? So it's intangible, it can't easily be seen. But then physical level, bro, it's tangible. Like you can see, you can count, you can measure without like specialized tools. I know you dug this whole plot of land, or you picked how many bags of rice. So it's interesting for me even to see this kind of difference in work, the kind of work that I do and the kind of work that I don't do. And just to have kind of this disconnect, because one of the reasons why is I think I have grown, and I've grown up in Kenya, I've grown up in Africa, I've grown up in Western Kenya. A lot of the work that people do is physical labor, right? When people apply for jobs, they think in terms of physical labor. You know, you work for someone and then they pay you for like the kind of effort that you put in. And even growing up, so this is me like untangling this idea of knowledge work. Even me growing up, I never heard of this term knowledge work. It wasn't until maybe just a year or 2 years ago when I was reading Deep Work by Cal Newport, and then later on finding the work of David Allen in getting things done, and then now they started talking about people like Drucker, who now were talking about this concept of knowledge work. Prior to that, like prior to 2 years ago, I didn't even know like there's something called knowledge work, or things that you create off the assets of your mind. I never knew that, just because I am surrounded by so much physical labor that I couldn't see this kind of difference. And just because maybe it took so many years and it took such a long time for me to uncover that difference, I still kind of have a hard time thinking that someone else could see this difference. I mean, I suppose the reason I couldn't answer my wife and just kept shuffling around is because I thought she wouldn't understand my plight. I thought she would say, hey, you have 10 things on that to-do list. Why don't you just finish them off one by one? Don't overthink it, just finish them, whatever it takes. And I would answer something like, you don't understand, I have a process, you see, this work isn't as easy as you think, just shuffling. Okay, I'm beginning to see how crazy I sound not finishing tasks. So yeah, look at that emotion, man. Is what are you going to do today? Just, I have work. Well, like, what do you have on your work? It's just like a bunch of work. Like, me in my head, I don't think maybe she would understand. But as you can see, I hadn't made effort to break it down and tell her what kind of work that I'm coming to do. Because she says, hey, I want to be supportive, I want to support you in like, you keep telling me you're stressed out, I want to support you, I want to be an accountability partner to you, but then you're not telling me what you're doing. So okay, so now we've talked about the background, we've talked about this idea of intangible work that you can touch, and then now we're going to talk about my 7 work themes and 7 work areas. And this is a very new thing that I just recently developed. I'm very excited, so let's talk about it. So exactly a week ago, so last Monday, I got to work and wrote this down, my 7 work themes, and I felt so smart. Right, excuse me. So my 7 work themes. So this is a recent development, like I just said, something that I just made recently. And yeah, so a week ago, so that was Monday, last week on Monday, just a day like now, when I came back to work, I go to work and wrote this down, my 7 work themes, and I felt so smart. I felt like I had captured 100% of the nuances I consider when I sat down for work. I wondered, even if it's just a hypothesis, if I could go ahead and implement this in my life, track how much of each work I supposedly did. Now, the challenge I have now is how to strike any type of balance between all these things. As I have thought about them so much, it just sort of hangs over my head, which is a reminder that I think about these things so much, and maybe it's my personality, who knows, but I obsess and I cannot easily let go of like kind of like these things, work things that just in my head. Now, talk a little bit about 7 themes, and plus y. Yeah, okay. So here are my 7 work themes. So number 1 is creative and making stuff, and I was trying to even break it down today. So I one of the things that I do, one of the main work that I do is like creative stuff. So I do a lot of video work, graphic work, photography, this kind of like creating, and then presentations. I also write newsletters and kind of stuff. So a big part of my work, and also a big part of the identity that I identify myself with, is creative, and so I make a bunch of stuff. So that would be theme 1 of the kind of work theme that I would get to do whenever I sit down. And even for a long time, for an extremely long time, even before I did this is how I would view work. I hadn't been able to add all these other things as work, and you will see why it's now this is more important and so wholesome. And why I'm saying I felt like a genius when I uncovered it is because I had the context of me describing and talking about work was only through this, because even when I got a job, and this was how I was being evaluated. Like, you make stuff, you create stuff, and when I'm running my freelance business and was running creative business on the side, I would make this kind of stuff, and so I would get evaluated by the kind of creative things that I make: videos, graphics, pictures, etc. But now I'm in a season of my life where I have so much insight and I've seen so much and I've learned so much that I'm now able to expand the scope of work, and I'm also now able to see this as work because it adds value to my entire person. So the second part is sales and outreach. So just sales, making sales, going out and meeting people, meeting new clients, just forming relationships, talking to people. I never knew this was work until I started learning about sales. I learned about account management. I learned about how to grow accounts. I learned about the value of relationships in making business come to you. And so another part is sales and outreach. So you just want to be out there making new connections, talking to people, helping people. And so it's a big part of even some of the things that I'm doing right now. Lately, I'm trying every week to just be out there to talk talk to people I've worked with, find out how they're doing, just kind of have a relationship and build that relationship. It's such a crazy thing that I didn't know that was part of just business and work. But then when you study more and you learn that, account managers who are doing an account, like account management for in like an agency, they're responsible for a certain account, that is like they're responsible for a certain client. They just go to that client's farm and they hang out all day. They wine and dine the clients, they take them out, they build relationships, and then they listen if there's new work coming, and and then they pitch work. So you see, there's no way you can pitch work, there's no way you can grow an account if you don't learn to do this kind of outreach and you don't learn to do sales. And so that's one of those things I just learned, and so I incorporated into a work theme. So this is another work theme that I get to do, and I've been doing, especially lately in my quest of now building the agency. I've just started seeing this as one of those very, very key things. And then number three is big picture and strategy. This is the work I would love to do, man. It comes so easily to me to think big picture, to think strategy, to kind of, and maybe maybe it has something to do with the fact that I'm more creative inclined. So just thinking this, just stuff and bringing it down here into this world is not very difficult for me. So I really enjoy big picture, man. Now, the reason why I added this into a theme is, even after now, again, reading a lot of books, reading a lot of kind of even strategy tools, strategy documents, articles on HBR, I started learning that people spend time and pay so much money for like this big picture in strategy and just people to come up with like a direction. Therefore, this is a work theme. I need a day, I need a theme, I need a way to get into like big picture and strategy, even though it feels very woozy and sometimes it feels like it has no direct relationship with how you make money. But if you don't have this, then again, you don't make money. So let me skip this number four. I'll come back to it in the final one, because I think this is the glue that's holding all these kind of themes. So number five is leadership and people development. So again, I have been learning, man, about how leadership and developing your people is a work theme. It's a work area that you're supposed to do. So having workshops, having meetings that you're asking people to grow, you're challenging them to grow, you're painting a bigger picture, you're painting a bigger vision for them, is a part of work. And you wonder, so what's the role of leadership and what's the role of management? Really, it's just to develop people. Is developing people work? Are we going to pay you guys just to come and develop people and just make sure that people are at their peak performance? And indeed it is. And so this is one of those things that I really desire to do, and I would love to do this, man. Even if I would rather not do this kind of creative and making stuff kind of thing, I would love just to help people grow, to help people uncover areas that are blocking their growth, to kind of teach people and to create kind of like a culture where people are just like working and making things happen in the world. I'm really kind of driven or excited about those kind of ideas. So this is a theme, a work theme that I added on to my one of the things that I get to do, and especially this has a lot to do with the business side. Now, me now building the business, not me showing up in my work, but in my business side, learning leadership and learning people development. So I've been learning a lot, even how to communicate, how to create presentations, how to these kind of things. And I cannot wait. I cannot wait, like, kind of to build this thing that is teaching, is coaching, is growing, is doing workshops. I'm kind of really excited about that kind of direction. Oh, number 6, it's just showing up and supervising. So this one I learned from High Output Management book by Andy Grove, where one of the tasks a manager is supposed to do is just to show up, man. Like, just show up. Because when you show up, you are seeing, you're learning. When you just show up and you're talking to people, you're getting all this kind of feedback, visual and audio visual feedback. You're listening, you're hearing, you're seeing what's happening, and just showing up is also work. And so whenever you are running anything, wherever you're in charge of anything, one type of job that you just do is just to show up. I found that very, very also good to know. So that means if you're running anything or if you're in charge of anything, one of the few things that you're supposed to do is just to show up in that thing and just to see what's going on. Just show up. You will learn a lot. Also, this is like a testament to what I said the other day. Every day you wake up, you're learning. Every day you wake up, you're doing business. So whatever you're saying today could be used tomorrow or whatever. So that's my other theme, my other work theme, and I think it's very valuable. And it's very strange because I hadn't even given myself permission initially to accept that just showing up is a part of work. Isn't that crazy? That just showing up is a part of influence, right? Just talking to people is a part of making the ball move forward. And so that's one of them. And then another one is new business development. Because of the way my brain works, is I'm always thinking about new things, new ideas that I want to try, and they bug me, man. Like this cleaning business that is just now in my head, that maybe we should try this, we should build this kind of cleaning business. And so another work theme that I'm developing is to have a theme that we're developing a new business, right? And so that's like also like a work thing that I'm accepting, or I'm even giving myself permission to see it as work. Because you see, most people, and especially if you're here, if you've a lot of your life you've been here into like the creative and the making stuff, you've been just deep into the potatoes, you don't think that this kind of big picture, new business development, seeing where just showing up, teaching people, just making relationships is part of work. But all this is part of work, and I feel so good to give myself permission to do this. And then finally is personal development and growth. I had a big kind of challenge to add this into how I think about work, and why I think it's part of work and it's part of the things that I do when it comes to work. Again, just because nobody tells you that you're in charge of your own personal development and you're in charge of your own growth, and while you show up in work, in anything, you're supposed to be finding ways to develop and finding ways to grow. And I suppose even this is why I figured how do I explain to my wife when she asks me now these other questions, what are you going to do for work? I'm just like a bunch of stuff. How am I going to tell you that? I'm just going, also I might just get there and find ways to delegate this work to someone else, and I'll just read a book or watch a YouTube video that will help me grow. How do you justify that as work? And how do I make her see that, yeah, whatever you're saying is, I can see that it's work. Yeah, sure, I can see that it's valuable. So for me, I put this at the center now, this kind of personal development and growth, because I see how growing internally and developing internally feeds into just work in general. It feeds into the kind of person that you become. It feeds into the kind of questions that you ask. It feeds into it's a very compounding like work thing to build on. And so I would really want to intensify my personal development, my growing, my knowledge, me being able to act on the things that I know. I really want to be able to. This one of the things that I feel really driven about now. So these are my 7 work themes. I am so excited to talk about this. When I was coming now this morning, I wondered, where do now things like my family commitments, like I told my wife wants me to print a bunch of pictures, to hang the bathroom mirror, where do those things fit? Because I don't see them as work. I see them as these things I have need to do back at the house. So I wondered, should I find a way of including kind of like errands, family errands, and into this? But then I'm not sure, and I guess it's a work in progress of thinking how these errands will eventually kind of fit into this whole thing. So these are my 7 work themes, man. I'm really really proud of them, and I think this will take me a long way when now I'm explaining to my wife, hey, so what are you going to do for work, and how do you see your week moving onwards, right? So we're almost getting to the end, and I want to talk about my obsession with finding clarity in my life and work. This is like a thing in my head that I cannot shut off. I find myself, I'm very kind of, I try so hard to find, say, meaning in whatever I do. It's just who I am. I can't shake it off. So over the years, I have fumbled so much in seeking clarity in my life, trying to create all sort of diagrams and tools that would eventually help me cope with how much was in my head and how much I wanted to bring into the world. I suffered at the hands of too much ambition and too little traction in my life. Because of this, I have an uncanny habit of peeling back layers and looking for structure in my day, in my work, in my organization. I can't help it. So this is just like every time I get to work and every time I do work for a certain period of time, my head starts kind of trying to find structure. And I guess maybe that's one of the ways that I'm able to learn very quickly. Let me try and zoom this in and see if I can show you this image. Right. Okay. So this is me trying to build my life system, and I was saying, hey, here I have personal development, and in personal development I have like books, articles, podcasts, courses, journals, and papers, and I don't know, I can't read this. And then I have skills, and I was trying to track all these things. I got overwhelmed, and I have technical skills, and then I have soft skills, and then technical skills I have like creative skills, I have video editing, I have photography, and then I have sales. And then and then soft skills, I guess I have leadership, who knows. I have a bunch of skills, even doing these presentations I think it's a soft skill. And then work, these are all the areas of work that I was responsible for, or I'm responsible for right now. So there was the Word of Life Church Creative. I was the head of the creative team, and we have the photographer, videographer, graphic designer, social media manager, copywriter, audio person. Okay, so right, so it just had like a mini blackout. It happens a lot around here, baby. I hope I can just keep going. Then we have Bungoma Bible School Creative, and kind of doing the same things, and then BBM, the ministry, then Green Life Academy, then Max Shanga Shop, and he was actually doing different things. He was like a manager, I was doing sales and marketing, I was also a janitor, and an accountant, and I was doing all these kind of things. And then Jolwa Farm, I was a manager, sales and marketing, janitor, accountant, all these kind of things I was doing. And then also I have business that I never actually got around to like the capture here, but then I have Croc Studio, where I'm like the founder and the CEO, and there's all these kind of things that I've been doing in Croc Studio, because man, we're trying to work, bro. We're trying to be rich out here. And then I have this thing called perspiration that I was thinking a lot about, and so perspiration. Okay, so I guess Wi-Fi is back. Right. So perspiration, there's writing, there's photography, there's video, there's design, there's audio, and then there's coding, because I was coding a lot maybe 2 years ago. Now in writing, there's like a personal blog, there's Twitter threads, and there are a bunch of things. And the reason I was breaking these things down is I'm wondering, could I kind of find a formula to all this perspiration that I'm perspiring? I have photography, I have a bunch of Instagram pages, bro. I have maybe 4 or 5 Instagram pages. And video work, I have like 2 YouTube videos, including this one, YouTube channels, or my main YouTube channel. And in design, also have a bunch of kind of like areas where I'm trying to post design. There's Instagram, there's Dribble, there's Behance, and then there's audio. I had a SoundCloud, I was trying to do a podcast, and then there's the coding, there's the GitHub. Oh, and there's the code pen. I was trying to share bits and snippets of the code. And I just was taking all this time and effort to try and codify my life. And I don't know if anybody else does this. People who just stop and say, no, there's no way I think I'm going to make progress if I don't have clarity on these things. I even have I got lucky. I learned about priorities, and even wrote down all the areas of my life that are on and what is a priority right now and what is off. Because I would even get bogged down. Okay, so is youth church a priority for me right now, or is a priority for me this kind of business thing, or is family like a bigger priority than all of those things? How can I like learn how to prioritize these kind of questions? And so yeah, I've always been kind of obsessed about finding clarity in my work. Let's look at this one, and then I'll zoom out a little bit. I think so. For instance, this is me desperately trying to identify my skills, projects, work responsibilities, as well as business commitments I have on an app. Similarly, here's me below updating all the tasks I get to do for work week after week. So I mean, I got down and I was breaking down every single thing that I did for work, with every single task that I was doing for work week after week, and which ones had not get started. And I was trying to track how many hours it takes in my week. And this is it, man. This is like 48 kind of demands on my time in a week. And I remember just creating it and thinking, nah, man, I don't think I can do all these things. And I guess that's why I'm telling my wife a bunch of stuff, because all these things are kind of things that I'm still, it's somewhere in my head. Even those things that are not in progress right now, they're in my head. Right, let's zoom out. Right, so now, because I have in fact I need to make this bold, because I've spent so much time intimately thinking about all the kind of work that I do and getting better at some of them, while absolutely abhorrent to some. I imagine that someone else might not understand my plight, but I have not made any effort to explain myself. Like, like I've not made any effort to explain that, look, this is what I think I'm going through, and this is, bruh, this is, man, this way I just think you can't understand what's going on in my head about the kind of work that I'm supposed to do, No, so I personally think that this is some very high value work, right? Yeah, I mean, uncovering this, I think it's very high value. But does anyone else agree? Right? Does anyone else say that? Yeah, I mean, I think that's very high value work to, to say, yeah, this is the kind of work that I do, and I've uncovered this, and so I feel less clogged, and I feel less blocked with the work. Right? It's getting dark because it's about to rain, so I hope I can be seen. Now, I personally think this is some very high value work, but yeah, does anyone else agree? Would the person cutting my check agree that I need to have clarity on this work? I would definitely appreciate if people working for me took the effort to untangle all the work that they do and intend to do, and then measure while cutting. And as I wind up, this is the cherry on top of something that I'm so excited about. Is a book that I just started reading. I just finished reading last week, Making Work Visible. Now, it couldn't be more timely than this. Things wouldn't have lined up so amazingly timely as the situations, or it's not even circumstances, the things that lined up to me doing this video. Is so timely. It's time for me to read this book. It's time for me to talk about this. It's time for me to implement these new tools in my life. And it came to me. It just showed up. I was like, yeah, this is what I've been looking for. And I got the Audible, and I got the EPUB. Right. And so as I wind up, this is not a final review of this book, but I have found this book to be absolutely phenomenal in my life right now, Making Work Visible, by Dominica de Grandis, and it has given me a lot of the confidence now to even go harder into kind of untangling the work that I have, and just like finding you remember how in my one takeaway part 1, maybe was November 10th or something, I talked about operations and how I wondered how ops people were supposed to like super understand the kind of ops that's going on in the organization. And now I can just see, hey, this is like an operations kind of manual, like an operations kind of thinking type book. So I'm just going to talk about all these questions that I had intended to do this during the weekend, so I just copy pasted these questions, and I'll be back to kind of really review this book. Now, I have just got done reading the first pass of this book, Making Work Visible by Dominica de Grandis, and I think it's a book written after my own heart. Boy, oh boy, I never knew there was someone out there who was also frustrated about all the work that clogged and wondered if there was a way to move it. Imagine there's someone else out there who looked at all this work and was frustrated by all this work they hadn't done and wondered if there was a way to move it. And she provided a beautiful tool called Kanban. And I see myself embedding this into my life and my workflow moving onwards. But here's some of my thoughts and some questions to myself that I will address in another video. So I'll always kind of ask these questions that books give me. How I'm greatly influenced by making work visible. I think that works need the seriousness it deserves by thinking about it. One ought to go ahead and think about the work that they do. Managers need to map out the work the organization does. Leaders need to understand the kind of work that happens in the organization. Man, this is so personal to me that wow, yeah, even for me, my own obsession of kind of trying to think about the work that we do and needing that work to show up, needing this work to kind of be surfaced. And I do agree that work needs thinking about. And another work is you need to think about the work that you do, and you need to accept that you need to think about the work that you do, and kind of like make some resolutions about the thoughts that you have about the work that you do. The thought by David Allen in Deep Work about working needing to be thought about. Like I said, it's just about a year or two since I learned the concept of a knowledge worker and the importance of thinking about work, and that work needs to be thought about. If you have some work, you probably need to think about it. Now, when you think about the work that you do, you can design a career projection plan for yourself. You can think of your work in decades instead of days. You can visualize the growth you take as a person. This was so phenomenal to me. If you can see the tasks that you do, you can design a career. You can see the kind of steps, ladders that you take in your career. If you can visualize work, and if you can help people visualize kind of the work that they do, you can help them also think about this work in decades instead of days. I found this very, very phenomenal. And this is also a new thinking that I got from just reading and listening to Alex Omozi, who's like, man, think in decades, not days. Think in 100 days, not like a couple of weeks. Do this for 100 days, do this for 10 years, do this for another 10 years. So it's like, amazing. So I can kind of, if I take that kind of long time view, I can see how this work evolves and it changes with technology and innovation, new work things coming up. I can think about how my experience takes that journey with me. I thought that was I thought that was so fascinating. Now, this new skill is fundamental to finding high value work and low value tasks. It's also able to show how work happens and how work is interconnected. So these are two ideas. Because you can map out all the work, you can see high value work and low value work, and you can get other people to do low value work. But look at this, you can also see how work is interconnected. Maybe your sales team and your marketing team and the leadership, the kind of metrics that they need is interconnected, and you can make that happen. You can make that connection happen. It was just so fascinating to me to see this through this book. Why do people allow work to creep into an organization and initiatives to form without creating necessary tools that can allow someone to know indeed if they're being successful or not? So this is just questions to myself. Man, why do we allow this to happen to ourselves? And then another is, a day is probably not enough to finish all the tasks. Therefore, if a day will end up with you having more than you can do, how else can you redesign the work environment to ensure that the work gets done? Should all hiring plans come out of this insight? Yeah. Who becomes the champion who designs this new work environment? When it's pretty obvious nobody wants new work without extra pay, how can you get incentives to allow one to make more work? So these are maybe like two questions. Who can be like the work champion, and then at the same time, how can you kind of incentivize people to work more? And this, I'm thinking, just by like, imagine if you can be able to show people all the work that they do. I guess we could alleviate a lot of the stress that come with just the work environment. Now, this information is valuable even on an individual basis, because if you like taking on new work and you have that shiny object syndrome of trying a new thing, then you might as well just get insight into just how stretched thin you really are. And this was for me. I found it, even if I can't apply these concepts in an organization, I'm just so happy to know, man, whenever you take new work, whenever you add work in progress, because she talks about the five thieves of work. Thief number one is work in progress, and I think thief number two, I think it's unplanned work, and it goes on to talk about five thieves of time. But once you see that work in progress and work in progress that keep on piling is taking a toll on you as an individual, why then should you keep doing that? So you might change your ways. And even being a family person and working more hours is a real thing to consider in your quest for a structure and a fulfilling career. If I'm thinking in decades instead of days, why should I bombard myself with like work that I will never finish? You know, it doesn't make sense. All right, so when I thought about talking about this and making this video, processing these thoughts was very valuable to me. So this is how to plan your week, and my wife needs answers, and I'm so excited that I came in today to talk about kind of the insights I've had from the book that I just finished reading, and also how I'm thinking about my work right now. So see you, and thank you for watching.